It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict. Today we're talking about hiking. Summer months are upon us here, even though it's been nice and cool and really fairly wet for this time of year. People are getting outdoors if you're driving through Sedona, Prescott area, even here in the Verde Valley. People are out recreating outdoors. And with me today is Sedona Fire Marshal Gary Johnson to talk about some of these topics. Thanks for being here, Gary.
Thank you.
Now, Sedona, obviously that is kind of a mecca for hikers, and there's just endless amounts of trails out there. We're just kind of some reminders for people who are going to go out hiking. What are some things that they should be doing beforehand, and just some reminders? You know,
I think some of the things, you need to do some things to prepare to go hiking. Mm-hmm. And so one of the examples is that you should start to get hydrated. So if you're not going to go hiking tomorrow, mm-hmm. then, make sure you start drinking water today. In fact, you should be drinking water all the time. But just remember, you're going to have that physical activity, you're going to sweat more. In many cases, a lot of folks, especially folks that aren't comfortable here, they're visiting, the tourists kind of go, I don't feel like I'm really sweating. Well, when the humidity is down, it's evaporating so fast. So you want to make sure you stay hydrated. So as you're preparing, some of the things to take is make sure you take enough water. And so you can take it in a backpack, but even if I take it in a backpack, I've always taken a couple containers of water, just in case something happens to my backpack and I get somewhere where I need water. The other thing is think about what you wear. Long sleeve shirts aren't bad. You get into some brush, you run into something, that's another layer that can help protect you, get your skin from being impacted. Plus, if it really gets to the point where it's totally uncomfortable, you can take that off, wrap it around your waist, you can put it back on. It also protects you from the sun. Don't forget headgear. And when I say headgear, a lot of us wear ball caps, but a nice boonie cap, that's got the edges is great, keeps the sun off, keeps it off the back of your neck, makes it a lot more comfortable. Okay, sunglasses, appropriate. And one of the things that I really stress that we see at the end, if there's a call, is that cell phone. So, make sure your cell phone's fully charged and take it with you. You may find you run into areas where you don't have reception, but there'll be areas where you do. And so this way, if something happens, you're able to, either tell us where you are, or we'll talk a little bit later, things that we can use that cell phone to help locate you. So, and the other issues, footwear. Can't tell you how many calls we find out it's an isolated leg injury, typically ankle, typically improper footwear. So
really?
Flip-flops, open-toed shoes, things that don't give support. No, you need to have proper footwear. Will make a difference. When I hike, I have a pole. And at first I'm going, what do I need a pole for, a hiking stick? What do I need that for? That gives you that little extra balance when you come up to something where, wow, and I can tell you many times I probably would have fallen or had to go to my knees if I hadn't had that, my hiking stick. And so something just gives you that little extra support. And so, that way when you go out, you're prepared, you've got the tools, you get to enjoy and see what's happening. And I think that part's kind of critical, being prepared.
Do you see people in the Sedona area, are people for the most part prepared? I mean, when you go to Sedona, a lot of times it's people coming up from Phoenix and they know that they're going to be hiking. Are they prepared for the most part? Most
of the folks that know they're going to go hiking, that's part of their plan for the day or when they're going somewhere, are typically prepared. The ones that aren't is when they go somewhere, they're not planning on going hiking, and all of a sudden they realize they got a couple hours in the afternoon, and they look and they go, that's beautiful. Oh, and I can hike up to that point, or I go up to Mingus and I can take that trail. It'll take me out to one of the bluffs. So you're going, oh, I got a little bit of time. They don't have appropriate shoes. They may have eaten food they're not used to eating, so their stomach is kind of a little queasy. I think we've all done that.
Yeah.
Gone on vacation and had some of that local food, which is great, tastes great, but your stomach's not used to it.
Yeah.
And you probably haven't had enough water. So we run into that. Okay. But most folks are prepared, and that's what really helps. But on average, we probably run, I'm going to say, a call a week. Some
really?
weekends, some weekends more, some weekends less. You know, it's kind of interesting. They seem to come in streaks. You know, we'll have a couple of weeks where we won't have we call them rescue calls, and then on the other hand, I'll hear one on Saturday, I'll hear one on Sunday.
Now, are they mostly people who are lost and can't really find their way, or are they more someone who's feeling dehydrated or who's injured? Are they most cases just someone being lost?
It could be a combination of things. We work with Yavapai County and Coconino County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue. So if the person is just lost, then typically those calls are turned over to those folks. If there's an injury or we suspect an injury, or in many cases, especially during the winter, if we know that the weather's going to change, you know, because we're right here, it doesn't take as much time for us to gear up in a sense, whereas with both of the counties, you know, they do have to get some folks to where they need to be and so forth. So, you know, we'll be proactive. So it really depends on the call. But for us, they're typically injured, some type of trauma has occurred. And they can be from as simple as I call a walkout, which is when somebody calls, they're feeling dizzy, the crews get to them, they give them some water, the person relaxes, they're comfortable enough that they can walk out, or we call it like a hike out. In some cases, it can be to the point where we end up having to use a Stokes basket, and that's when we put the big wheel on it.
Okay.
And so,
can you explain what a Stokes basket is?
So a Stokes basket is typically like a litter. Okay, it's made out of metal, and we can able to strap somebody into it. And then the big wheel is a single large wheel, almost like an ATV wheel, but it's a single that goes underneath the unit. So when it's done, you end up having 6 firefighters around you. And so you've got this basket, and so you'll have one in each corner and one in the middle. And then we literally will use that and roll that out. And in some cases, you have to pick it up because of the terrain. But the idea is it's not so that the firefighters are not constantly having to support the weight of the patient and the basket at all times. And so in a minute, because many of the trails, you're able to make that happen. And having a nice wheel makes the ride, I'm going to say, a little better. Okay, it's not going to be, it's not perfect, but you know, if that's the situation. And you know, those are kind of some of the extremes, and even to the shall I say, the most challenging, or the one that they'll be telling all their friends when they get back, is when they are actually, you know, airlifted. They're short-hauled right off the side of the mountain using a helicopter with a paramedic. Now,
is that just because it's too difficult to get them out, or, I mean, does it have to be a life-threatening or serious injury to have someone airlifted out of a trail?
There can be a number of factors, and those factors are made by the incident commander on the scene. You know, and so if there is a significant injury, and they're in a location where, because of the nature of the injury, and we need to get them to a medical facility, and there is a helicopter available, and many times they'll do that short haul. There are some cases where their location is such that the hazard to get them back down to where they are is greater than using a short haul. They'll use a short haul. In some cases, the only choice that we need to use would be something like a high-angle rescue, and that's when they're going to set up the ropes. They're going to, you know, get a firefighter who's properly trained, comes down, secures you, and then they'll either bring you back up or take you back down, depending. A lot of folks get stuck. And what I mean by stuck is you'll be working your way up, you'll be working your way down, and all of a sudden you get yourself on a ledge, you'll get to a point, and somehow you got there, but you can't figure out how to move up or down. And then the best thing for you to do then is to stay right there. And again, it rolls back to the importance of having a cell phone and not hiking alone.
Okay, great. Well, when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back in a few minutes, we're going to cover some of the stuff to remember when you're actually out there on the hike, and things to do if you feel like you're lost or you're just feeling like you are not safe, and what to do and when you should actually call the fire department or search and rescue. So that's coming up in a few minutes here on Countywide.
Right, mi cariño. So like I said, everything I learned about cooking, I learned from Grandma's empanadas. Shall we go again?
Yep.
Mix beef with the onions with the peppers with the paprika with the garlic with the oregano with the cumin. Got it?
Got it.
Throw on the olives, stir, season, stir again, pour out the flour, roll out the dough, make a circle, drop in a fistful of filling, fold over, press down, and ta-da!
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Why is my son having trouble in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with my son over his homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No. He's smart, but his mind wanders.
7 wonders of the world.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, and with me today is Sedona Fire Marshal Gary Johnson, and we're talking about hiking, some reminders, just things to keep in mind when you're going out there this summer, recreating outdoors, not just hiking, I guess mountain biking and any of camping. It kind of works for all of this stuff. Some of the things to remember when you're actually out there. We talked about hydration, how important that is, and right during the break, I've been out hiking with a few people that I know from Phoenix, and they come up here to the Verde Valley or Sedona area, and they know we're going to go hiking. And when we get out there, they feel completely unprepared because they're like, wow, it's much hotter than I thought. Being from Phoenix, you know, you think that if you hike down in Phoenix, you're fine. But they think coming up here to the Verde Valley or Sedona that this is northern Arizona and it's going to be cool, and that's not the case in a lot of times.
No, and remember too, you get an elevation change. So many folks' bodies it takes a little while for them to adjust. So we talked a little bit about your preparation. So now you head out for your hike. And remember, so in your pack, make sure you got your water. Bring some food, okay? In fact, sometimes when I go hiking, with my friends, I'll bring cereal and milk, you know, put it in there. So when we stop, I'm going, what are you guys having? I'm going, I'm having some Cheerios, you know, and that. So, but the point is, bring something that you can snack on. Okay, and then we've got your phone. Make sure you've told somebody where you go. So you go to the trailhead and you get started, get all your gear together, make sure that you're totally prepared, and then off you go. Stay on the trail. Don't start getting way off the trail. If you call for help, harder for us to find you if you get off the trail. So stay on the trail. Understand where you are. And a good example, like, you know, I do a lot of hiking in West Sedona, you know, back up on below Grayback, and it's got a nice trail. So, but you come to intersections. So understand. Oh, take a look at that sign and says, oh yeah, here's Teacup. Okay, and so you have an idea where you are. Okay, and take it easy. Don't push yourself too hard. Pay attention. Watch where you're walking.
What are some signs you should be looking for, and maybe some things that goes off, you know, I'm dehydrated right now? What are some of the warning signs for that?
You'll start to feel, if I get dehydrated, then what I usually find is that my stomach will start to bother me, okay? You'll be sweating. If you stop sweating, that's critical, because remember, how does your body cool? Your body cools by sweating. If all of a sudden you haven't had water, you're struggling, and you realize that I'm getting really hot and I'm not sweating, you're starting to work towards a medical emergency. So you want to pay attention to that. You also want to pay attention to your buddy, whoever you're hiking with, or the other, you know, pay attention to what they're doing, making sure that they're comfortable. And so watch where you step. Remember, we do have other friends, shall we say, of the forest. There's snakes out there. Many of our snakes are friendly in the sense that they're not going to harm us. When you think about it, most snakes are more afraid of us than we are of them. Sometimes we don't know that. I mean, I'm not exactly a snake person. So, you know, when you see a snake, don't poke it, don't play with it, give it time to get away, get around it, clearly get around it, okay? If something is to happen and you get bit, okay, that's why it's important that you travel with a companion. Okay, if you're close enough to the trail, then you feel comfortable, so be it. If you're not, then then stay where you are. In any case, call for help. Dial 911 and tell them what's going on.
Now, how important is it you mentioned to keep an eye out on the person you're hiking with? How important is it to have a partner and not be alone out there when you're hiking, and also just to let people know where you're going to go? I mean, how does that help you guys out from a firefighter standpoint?
So in many cases, let's say when someone's lost, it's a great example, because what will happen is that, well, do you know where they were going? Well, yes, they were going to go on the Teacup Trail, and they left at about 9, and they said they would be back about 2. So now we kind of know that extent of that trail, and so you can start to work that. The same token is if we don't know where you've gone, or we don't know what time to expect back, then it gets a little bit harder. All right, so we'll define the trailheads. Some of the issues too is if we know exactly where you're taking off. Bell Rock Pathways has multiple points to get on. So if you know where you got on, you leave the message. When I go, my wife always asks me, where are you going today? When do you expect to be back? That gives her a little bit of an idea. So if something happens, she can point folks in the right direction. Remember, it can be difficult for us to find you, so we need that help. That's a great way where you can help us. The other issue is with the cell phone. If you have cell phone reception there, when you call 911, stay on the line with the operator, give her all the information that she or he requests. One of the things that we're capable of doing is what they call phase 2, where I'm going to say all of your phones by now. There may be a few exceptions of some old flip phones, but pretty much all of your phones have GPS capability. So what happens is that they will use a process, and it depends on your carrier. And what they'll do is they'll be able to pinpoint using typically GPS of where you're at. But here's the challenge. It isn't super accurate. So it might be within, let's say, 100 meters. That's 300 feet. Well, in some cases, that's close enough that we can see you or we can make contact. In some cases, you're on the other side of some major formation. So again, it's another tool in the toolbox that can help. And just moving slowly to some area can make a big difference with cell phone reception. I mean, we've all been in that. Rotate is easy, or just
sticking it up in the air.
Sticking it up in the air. So, okay, that's something that's critical. In almost, I'm going to say at least 75% of the calls, maybe even more, one of the things that I see is when the call goes out for a rescue, I'm notified using my cell phone by a text. But what they'll do is then they'll text out the GPS coordinates to the responding crews. And then that will get us in that mark. The other issue is that in many cases, we get the reporting party's cell phone number. So now instead of it going here to here to here, and what I call having a person in the middle, okay, no, we can talk directly to you and say, find out exactly, so that way the responding crews can find out the who, the what, the where. And since we've been out there a lot, in many cases, it helps us because we can, oh, that's where you're at. Okay, then it makes sense.
I'm sure it helps with, actually talking to the person who was either injured or lost or whatever. Talking to them directly kind of lets you know, okay, we have to get there as soon as possible.
Right.
They're seriously injured. We have to,
And we can determine what the nature of the injury is. We can determine where they're at in reference. So if we need additional resources, we can get those resources started. Because it's one thing is if we're walking in, half a mile, quarter of a mile on a regular standard, what I call simple trail. How about West Fork? We've had calls. You go back there, they're 2 miles back. Okay. That can take us a while. So the way that we do it, when we get on there, we have what we call a blitz pack. We have a pack that the guys will carry that has that initial equipment they'll need, medical equipment, and what they will do is 2 of them will go in right away. And so what we're doing is we're trying to get to the patient as quick as we can. And then what happens is the other individuals are setting up and getting ready to help get them out. So very, very labor intensive. The example, the Stoats basket, there's 6. Okay, and then typically you'll end up having another person. Not uncommon, 6, 8, 10 firefighters, and the call can go on for 3, 4, 5 hours. We've had calls, we've had some situations where, because of high angle rescues and where they're at, the calls have gone over 24 hours. Because they're in a location where all of a sudden, we're working to get to them, turns dark, can't do anything at night, they have to wait next day. So we've had some calls that can be pretty significant in some of these canyons back here. Yeah, well,
when we come back, we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we'll just quickly touch on some of the technical rescue services that Sedona Fire provides, especially given the unique and really difficult terrain that you guys have there with West Sedona and even Oak Creek Canyon especially. So that's coming up here on Countywide. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Every budget, so don't accept defeat. Now you can get covered and still buy me treats.
You take care of your pets. Now it's their turn to take care of you. Visit getcoveredamerica.org to learn about your health insurance options.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, joined with Sedona Fire Marshal Gary Johnson, talking about hiking things, just reminders for this summer season, including rescue efforts, which we're going to talk about here. But real quick, you wanted to mention a lot of people are hiking with their animals, their pets.
Right, and so it's really important to remember, bring water for your animals and bring a method to deliver it. Small portable bowl, something that would work so that they can have that. If you need a break, they need a break. And pay attention to them as well. Remember too that if they're not used to hiking and they get out on the rocks and the hot sand, watch for their paws and so forth. Mm-hmm. Just think about it. They can have some of the same symptoms and have some of the same issues that we can have. So just be proactive. Water is a critical component.
Okay, real quick, I believe we have about a minute left. Can you just run through some of the technical rescue services that you guys have?
Well, some of the things that we do, for example, the crews just returned back from doing their swiftwater training. We have Oak Creek that comes through, as well as the Verde River. So as a result, our crews are trained to do swiftwater rescues. Mm-hmm. And so that's that great reminder. If you don't think it's safe to cross, don't cross. If there's water somewhere normally not, don't drive through it. We have crews that do high angle rescue. And that's where they're basically going to set up those ropes that you kind of see the guys that are climbing up and down the side of that cliffs. They're trained in to do that. So if you're stuck on a ledge, that's what you can kind of expect. Lots of training. So what these are incidents that take a lot of training to be prepared because they're low in volume, but the risk is high. So they do a lot of training to make that happen. So hopefully, everybody will enjoy themselves, be prepared. But if you just take some of the tips that we talked about, and so forth, I think that you'll enjoy yourself and you'll be prepared if an event happens or if you come across another hiker that's in need.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here as always, Gary.
Thank you for the invite.
For more information, as always, you can go to sedonafire.org for more information just about the district or some helpful reminders on there as well. So that's going to do it for Countywide today. We'll see you guys next time.